Do you ever feel like an overwhelmed spouse losing yourself in marriage? Today, we're navigating the world of codependency and enmeshment in relationships. This episode is pivotal for anyone looking to create a healthier partnership while maintaining their own identity. So stick around, your marriage and probably your sanity will thank you. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's walk and talk. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy, the podcast dedicated to helping parents improve their mental health, wellness, and life fulfillment. I'm your host, Kendra Nielsen, and today we're delving into the intricate dynamics of emotional neediness in relationships, focusing on enmeshment. We'll also explore how to foster healthier interdependence and differentiation in your relationships. I just threw a little bit of jargon at you, so I will break that down so you understand it a little bit better if you don't already. Let's start with talking about codependency. That was a big buzzword for a while, and I've noticed that lately it's not talked about quite as much, but it is very helpful in improving relationships. So, what is codependency? That's a behavior where one person excessively relies on the other person for emotional support and self-worth. And likely you're thinking, I don't do that. Listen up, because you might. This often leads to self-sacrifice or neglect of personal needs to control or fix the other person or their problems. Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby says this: dependent individuals often derive their sense of purpose from meeting the needs of their partner, which can lead to resentment and emotional exhaustion. So, do you notice that in your relationship, my friends? Do you notice feeling resentful or emotionally exhausted? Because that can be a sign of codependency. Now, let's talk about a few other signs that might help you identify if you're maybe a little more codependent than you might have thought initially. Do you have low self esteem? Are you constantly seeking validation from others? Do you have a fear of abandonment, like an overwhelming anxiety about being left alone? Do you have difficulty expressing feelings? Do you suppress your own emotions in order to avoid conflict? And are you excessively caretaking of others? Do you prioritize others' needs above your own? And do you have control issues? Do you like to manage or fix your partner's problems, behaviors, or even other people? This absolutely affects a home dynamic and it impacts the kids. So let's talk about how that shows up. When parents are codependent, kids learn how to prioritize other needs over their own, and that leads to patterns of unhealthy relationships in adulthood. So even though it might not show up in ways that are really obvious right now, it will. Hold on. If you don't want it to, the change needs to come now, not later. Often, children of codependent parents struggle with feelings of self-worth, and they may develop similar dependency issues later in life. Now, let's talk about enmeshment, because this is another thing a lot of my clients don't really understand, and I always need refreshers to really explore what that means. So, this is a relationship dynamic where personal boundaries are blurred or even non existent. So, in these enmeshed relationships, people become overly involved in each other's lives and they lose their sense of autonomy and identity. Dr. Salvador Minuchin said this: family members are overly concerned with each other's emotions, making it difficult for them to develop independently. We had to explain this to our youngest daughter when she loves to help other people, but sometimes she does it to their detriment. She jumps in too quickly to help fix things or to be there for other people. But by doing that, they don't develop on their own. In her desire to help, sometimes she prevents them from learning the things they need to learn. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't jump in and help people, but doing so carefully. And that's a hard lesson to teach our kids sometimes. Yes, you can help them, but maybe don't be so quick to jump in, or maybe help them get started, or maybe help them finish, but don't. I'm thinking about a job. My younger daughter always wants to help one of the kids do their jobs, which is very sweet of her. And yet they can start to become overly dependent on her for help and almost dramatize things so she feels bad and wants to jump in and help them. So that can become almost this manipulative relationship of enmeshment. And you don't want that, whether it's for your kids or for other people. So, what are some signs of enmeshment? Those can be those blurred boundaries where it's difficult to distinguish your feelings from another. I see this a lot in marriages, like with my couples that come in and talk to me. Like it's hard to identify for that couple who's actually angry here. Whose feelings are these? And are you getting too swallowed up in the feelings of your partner, of your spouse? Can you even identify what's yours and what's theirs? Another one is over involvement. So, that excessive involvement in each other's lives and decisions, like maybe you are dictating too many things or having an opinion on too many things rather than allowing them to be their own individual. It might not exactly be control, but just having too much dialogue about what they are or aren't doing or what you would suggest or different things like that. Like it can be too much where there's not that differentiation that we're hoping for. And then the next one is loss of identity. Are you struggling to make independent choices? Can you pick that restaurant? Can you choose your favorite movie? Can you do those things without feedback from your spouse? Now, let's talk about codependency versus enmeshment because even for me, this is often blurry. I don't totally understand it. Let's talk about boundaries with codependency and enmeshment. So, with codependency, we're sacrificing personal needs for another's well being. But with enmeshment, boundaries are unclear or maybe even non existent. Now let's talk about independence with each one of those. So with codependency, one partner relies heavily on the other for self worth. And with enmeshment, those people lose their sense of self within the relationship. How about emotional dynamics? With codependency, there's often resentment or exhaustion. And with enmeshment, it's this emotional tangle or this confusion, like you're not really sure whose feelings are whose. And last but not least, communication. What does that look like with codependency? That's focused on caretaking and enabling. And then with enmeshment, it's high emotional intensity with difficulty separating those feelings. Now I'm thinking back on my example with my daughter. So that was in this communication part, more that codependency, where she wanted to take care of her siblings, but it became enabling instead of there wasn't that high emotional intensity. Although I think there were elements of that too from her siblings as they got more elevated to try to engage her and help her and have her come in and rescue them. So there can be aspects of both in that. So, what does that look like in your family life? Interdependence is what we are looking for. We're not just looking for complete independence because that's not healthy either. But healthy interdependence allows both partners or any family member to support one another while maintaining that individuality. And that creates that balance that we're looking for with mutual respect and that autonomy or that independence that is healthy. So, what can we do? What are some simple, tiny things we can do to create that healthier interdependence? It almost always goes back to this: establish clear boundaries. So, talk about it as a family or in your marriage or your relationship. Talk about what is a win for both of you, where you have that mutual respect and that independence. Like, what does that look like? How could you both achieve that more? Just brainstorm what that can look like for you. The next one is prioritize open communication. So that requires regular check ins. I've talked about this before, but my husband and I do that every Sunday. We check in about what's working, what's not working, what needs to be readjusted. Do I feel respected? Do I feel like I have enough autonomy or that independence? Do I feel like we're getting too codependent or too enmeshed? And how can we have more differentiation and that healthier balance? Another thing you can do is practice self soothing. In the case of my kids, often we'll have them take a walk or we will have them journal for a little bit or just listening to some soothing music, recognizing that this is part of the human experience. When we get activated, that's okay. We're willing to help them relax and calm down, but often that comes after. If they're really escalated, they can be really unkind and mean. When we teach them how to self soothe, they become healthier in their independence, and that can create better interdependence. So, not relying so heavily on other people to calm us down is important. That shows emotional maturity. And then, last but not least, engage in that quality time together. So, come together, especially afterwards, and spend meaningful time together through things that you both enjoy and that will strengthen your bond. Now, this is especially for couples, but it can also be with your kids. Fulfillment in family life also improves. You want some quick, simple examples for breaking free of codependency? Because I know my clients often need some more specific examples. The first simple thing you can do is improve self care, and that could be a simple 15-minute walk alone each day. Key is alone. You don't have to do this with someone else, and you follow through with it and show yourself that you matter and you don't have to rely on others. The second thing you can do is set communication boundaries and identify one area where you need more personal space and autonomy. For example, maybe you develop a no interruptions rule during work hours if you work from home. Maybe it's from 7 to 8. It's your personal time to just unwind and rejuvenate, and you're just not going to talk to people during that time, and that's okay. You're just taking time for yourself, and you have to model that and maintain those boundaries. Like they're going to push them because they're not used to them, but you gently, lovingly remind them, this is mom's time. I'll be out at 8 o'clock. And just do that like a broken record until you are done. And that goes for your spouse as well. Reminding them, I will be out in 1 hour. Please be respectful. This is important to me. This is why I will be out in 1 hour. And at some point, just don't answer the door, or if they're not getting it, they're pushing those boundaries. Remind them like why that affects you, why that hurts you, and how it's important that you follow through on this for yourself and for them. Another simple thing you can do is encourage those individual interests and support each family member as they do their own passions and hobbies. This might be signing up one of your kids for an art class, or maybe you even join something that you've been nervous to do and show them that means you too. And as always, practice those I statements. Like I was just saying, I feel frustrated when you keep knocking on the door when I said that this is my quiet time, because this is how I show up as a better mom and as a better spouse. So when you're not respecting that, I feel sad and disappointed because I want to be better in these areas. And I don't feel like you respect me when you're not hearing me and listening. And then the last thing is allow for natural consequences. So resist the urge to rescue family members from the results of their actions. This is probably the hardest thing I see for my clients for them to do, as they so quickly want to rush to fix it. For example, if your teenager forgets their lunch, let them experience that inconvenience rather than rushing to get it to them and letting guilt weigh on you. They're going to be fine missing lunch for one day, but it's hard to allow other people to suffer those consequences, those natural results of not doing something. Now, if that happens like once a year and it's so out of the ordinary, maybe it's not a big deal. But if it's a regular thing because they know you'll just pick up the slack, then that might be elements of enmeshment or codependency, and it doesn't help anybody. So challenge that a little bit and recognize your side of the street. Melody Beatty said this: once I realized it was okay for me to think about and identify what I wanted, remarkable things began to take place in my life. So, what could that look like for you? Or how has it looked as you've started to do this? Another simple thing you can do is be more self aware. So, this could be taking a few minutes each day to check in with yourself and identify where you're at without judgment. Darlene Lancer said this: when we let go of our reactions and detach from other people's moods, actions, and words, we take our power back. I really love that because I see that a lot showing up with my clients as they do this more. I'm actually going to read that again. When we let go of our reactions and detach from other people's moods, actions, and words, we take our power back. I noticed that a lot growing up with my stepdad. He was very emotionally stunted, very emotionally immature. He had a lot of sad things happen to him as well, but he was also a difficult man to live with. And I noticed as a teen that when I didn't react to him, like he was always trying to engage me in a fight, trying to get me swallowed up in it so then he could point the finger at me and blame me. He was looking for a scapegoat. I don't believe he was intentionally doing that most of the time. I don't think he had this self-awareness to recognize that was happening. But I even recognized that as a teenager, and to get my power back, almost like in a rebellious sort of way, I started to let go. I started to not give him that emotional response, and he couldn't fight with me because I wouldn't engage. And it was so empowering. And that was the first step in my journey towards knowing I wanted to go into mental health because it was so transformative and helpful to let go. Here is a very simple codependency quiz you can take. 5 questions to see if you're codependent or not. So answer these questions. Do you often put other needs before your own? Do you often feel responsible for other people's feelings? Do you struggle to say no when asked for help? Is your self-worth tied to others' approval? Do you feel guilty when doing something for yourself? If you answered yes to 3 or more of these, then you might want to explore further codependency, maybe reading some books about it, maybe some more podcast episodes, whatever it might be, to get a deeper understanding of this, because likely this is something that's affecting many aspects of your life, including the lives of your children and who they may pick to marry someday because of living in this environment. So it's important to not avoid this. So here are the main things I want you to remember from the episode today. Codependency is that excessive reliance on other people for self-worth, and enmeshment involves those blurred boundaries, leading to a loss of identity. And both of these things can negatively impact that home environment, but when we model healthier patterns, it can help our family heal from those things. We can create that healthy interdependence, and that requires those clear boundaries, open communication, and encouragement for individual growth. We can also improve this with things like self-care and communication. Self-awareness is also that first step, and that will help you determine if you need more professional help and what those next steps are that you can take to improve that family dynamic. I'm going to end with a quote by Dr. Kristen Davin, and she said, "Being overly emotionally needy, too demanding, clingy, annoying, fragile, can spell disaster for your relationship." So when we implement these things in our families, this will help the home have that healthier interdependence and heal from that codependency or that enmeshment and improve that genuine connection so that your kids are going to want to come back home when they leave the home someday. It's not going to be a place of dysfunction and unhappiness, but something they're excited to share with other people. Thank you, my friends, for tuning in to Fulfillment Therapy today. If you haven't done so already, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you don't know how, you just go to the show, search Fulfillment Therapy, and scroll right down to the bottom past those stars, and it will say in purple on the left-hand side, write a review. So you write a review, fill in those stars. It takes 3 minutes. If you haven't left a review yet, and you are willing, we would love that extra help and support because that helps us get seen. And if you have, thank you so much for doing so. All right, my friends, we will meet you back here in just a few days. Take care. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like, I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.